Hey, everybody, welcome to part 5 of Hockey Love and Hate. Um, Finally, mercifully ending this long ramble about teams I love and teams I hate. I I just have to, first of all, tell you I'm terrible at organizing these videos. I am John Corelli. This is your average guy opinion. I'm your average guy, John Corelli. I'm messing this up already, but I don't care. These are impromptu. They're messy. They're omelets. I'm breaking a bunch of eggs here. I'm messing up my hair. I'm trying to look good for you. What a mess. This is my center ice shirt, and once again, I wore this to remind me when they go into my PC here of so I know that this is indeed part 5. I am these are cool. It's funny. Let me tell you a little tip for you, those of you who like to save money. Hold on to the stuff and take care of the stuff you have, because I remember everyone was doing center ice like when I bought this thing like good 15, 20 years ago. Now nobody has them, and people are like, this thing is cool. I was like, the plain black with just the logo, no name on the back, just center ice and the logo. And everyone's like, yeah. I was like, all right, well, yeah, like 20 years ago, everybody and their brother had these, but now I must have taken care of mine pretty well. I wear this all the time. It's pretty durable, but it's just it doesn't even have the laces or anything. It's just the sweater. But and it looks good. I think these colors look really good on black. That's my opinion. Of course, I'm going to think everything my team does is awesome, except when John Spano tried to buy them for $5 million in the 90s. But I talked about that already. So here's our final bracket. Like I said, it was all messed up. I didn't really do my research very well. I should have the divisions memorized, to be honest. I mean, I did a hockey podcast 2 years ago, for God's sake. But hey, anyway, so the final bracket, the way it worked out in 2021 for COVID, is all the teams were Canadian, right? So the 7 Canadian teams, since they had different uh, standards of how they were handling COVID, they kept their stadiums empty longer than the United States did. They had different standards for what the players did and what if there were any fans in the stands. It was not a lot. So those 7 teams are who I'm going to go over. And now the 8th team that would make out that bracket that wasn't there 2 years ago would of course be the Seattle Kraken. I'll start with them. Another pretty successful expansion team. They're only in their second year, and as many of us Colorado Avalanche fans know, they knocked our Avs out first round of the playoffs this past year. Gave, I believe, Dallas a really good series before they bowed out. And just a very entertaining team. I like their teal colors. I like the anchor. I like the name the Kraken, even though that might fall out of favor because it's been a popular thing for 5 or 10 years. Kind of like the Toronto Raptors of the NBA. That was a popular thing to do when they came into the league in like '93. And they had a dinosaur with a basketball because Jurassic Park had just come out. It was kind of silly, but luckily Raptors can cover other things like birds and stuff. So hopefully the Kraken name will remain. I really love Seattle's fans. They always show up. They're the best in any sport. It was a crime that they moved the Supersonics out of there and made them the Oklahoma City Thunder 20 years ago or whenever that happened. They should have all sports. They're a major city. They deserve it. And they got fans to prove it. But so I'm glad they got hockey though. And the Kraken had a rough year their first year, but second year they made the playoffs and beat the defending Stanley Cup champions. No hate for the Kraken, even though they beat my backup team. Still like that team a lot. They have a couple of former Islanders on there, Jordan Eberle, and I thought they had another one, but maybe not. But I do like that team. So let's go to the Canadian teams, and of course, like I've mentioned before in this series, they have been long suffering. Canada as a country has not won the Stanley Cup in 30 years. They haven't even made it to the finals that often, to be honest. But so let's start with Montreal, probably the biggest hated team out of all the Canadian teams because they've dominated for so long. Like I said earlier, I made a reference to the Yankees in baseball, the Celtics in basketball, the Lakers too, and now Montreal owned the NHL for a very long time. They were one of the original 6 teams, so there are only 6 teams from I think from about oh god, it was 1926 to maybe the 40s or the 50s, but maybe even in the 60s. There were only 6 teams in the NHL, and Montreal dominated. I think they've won the Stanley Cup like 25, 26, 27 times, a lot. And they're also the last Canadian team to win it. So some hate towards them, but still, after all this time, 30 years, I'm not going to begrudge them anything. So don't really even hate them that much. Let's just go get the big teams out of the way. The next team would be the Toronto Maple Leafs. A lot of people think I should hate them because John Tavares used to play for the Islanders. He was our captain. He was our overall first pick back, I think, like maybe 2010, 2012, and then he bailed for the money. I'm not going to hate on him for that because that's what players do sometimes. And so people are upset. A lot of Islanders fans are upset that he went to Toronto, but I'm not. And I'm glad they got out of the first round of the playoffs last year. And I like that old school uniform they have, the very plain blue sweater, white stripes, the maple leaf on it, just says Toronto Maple Leafs on it. I really like that. I like that old school stuff. So no hate towards Toronto. Like I said, I won't have any hate towards any of this division, whether it's Seattle or all these Canadian teams. We got 5 teams left to talk about. Edmonton Oilers. The only reason I would have some hate for them is when they had Gretzky in 1984, they kept my New York Islanders from winning 5 Stanley Cups in a row, which is only done by the Canadians back in the 70s or 60s, I believe. So that kind of I kind of hated on them for that, but still, it's been 30 years since Canadian teams won it. For the Oilers specifically, I think 1990 was the last time they won it. Gretzky won 5 cups with that team in 7 years. Very impressive dynasty they built there. Love their fans. If you watch a game, it's very entertaining. I have a bucket list that I would like to go up to Alberta, Canada, and watch a Flames Oilers game. Maybe Mike Davis can get me up there because he knows, he used to live up there. Like I said, I mentioned him earlier. He's the guy I used to do the podcast with about hockey. But I would love to that'd be a good bucket lister, to either go to Edmonton or Calgary and see those two teams play each other. Like I said, no real hate towards Edmonton, except that they derailed the Islanders dynasty back 40 years ago. Big deal. Calgary, like them a lot, like the uniform a lot, like that red flaming sea. It's a beautiful sea of red when you watch the highlights from the games up in Calgary. A lot of great players that I really like. They failed this year hard. They failed really hard. They were looking like people had them as a cup contending team. They didn't even make the playoffs. It's a Bruce, I can't remember his first name. Daryl Suter is their coach, and he's very controversial. In a game that has gotten very offensive minded, and they're trying to score more goals. He's a defensive minded coach, and he's often seemingly doesn't let his offensive players play to produce goals. Instead, he's got them back checking, which is a good idea. Sorry, my hair is something, but that is a team in disarray, which is a real shame because they got a lot of good, fun players to watch. They've got they've got Nazem Kadri, and they've got John Huberdeau, and they've got I can't think of his first name, but he's my boy Mangiapane. He wears a number 88. He's one of my favorite Italian players. So they got good stuff up there. And like I said, that I would love to see those two teams play each other someday. The other 3 remaining teams aren't as big. None of them have won cups. You've got Vancouver Canucks, who've been in the league over 50 years now. Have been to 2 Stanley Cups. And the Vancouver fans probably hate New York because they lost in, I believe, the 82 season to my Islanders. And then 12 years later, they lost to the Rangers in 94. And those are the only 2 times they made it, I believe. So Vancouver Canucks have had it rough. I like them a lot. Not a big fan of their uniforms, but I do like some of the players that have come through there. I just, like I say, no hate for these Canadian teams. Who else we got? We've got, come on, John. We got the Winnipeg Jets, and that's another team. If you get to just watch highlights of some of these teams, it's packed, and these people, Canadians, are passionate about hockey, and it's just a lot of fun to watch these knowledgeable, passionate fans watch their teams. It's crazy. I do whiteouts all the time in Winnipeg. Everyone wears white, and it's really cool to watch. They used to do that down in Arizona, oddly enough, too. So yeah, Winnipeg. Let's see. I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing? We got Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Toronto. Ottawa. The dirty little stepchild of the battle for Ontario, the Ottawa Senators. That's another good rivalry. Is Toronto Maple Leafs, Ottawa Senators. Ottawa has had flashes of greatness lately, but just can't quite seem to get over the hump. They have never won a Stanley Cup. They've never been to a final. They were one of my. I actually used to have an Ottawa Senators jersey because they were so bad in the '90s. I had the two worst teams were my favorite teams back in the early '90s before the Avs came along. My two favorite teams were the Ottawa Senators and New York Islanders, and they were both terrible teams. A lot of front office problems. One of my I could hate on Ottawa for the Alexei Yashin trade. You could look that up if you care to, but I understand if you don't. Yashin wasn't as bad with the Islanders as a lot of people like to think, but we gave up a lot for that guy when he came over from Ottawa. So there are a lot of Islanders fans that probably are not big fans of Alexei Yashin or the Ottawa Senators, but it's been 30 years or 20 years. Well, I'm not going to hate anybody for that. Love all the Canadian teams, love Seattle, and love that we're at the end of this 5-part series. Thank you. If you tuned in for all 5, give yourself a pat on the front, back, head, wherever you need to. And I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. Maybe we can go back and forth about, hey, why did you hate this team? I like this team. I think I pretty much said why, but still, it's something we could discuss. Maybe you hate my Islanders. I'd love to know why. So thanks so much, you guys, for watching. That's part 5. This is mercifully over. And like I said, I know I've said it a few times throughout this series, but give the Hockey Guy a subscription. If you're into hockey, go to him. Give him a couple more clicks, and he's a great dude, and he really knows the sport. So, all right, thanks, you guys. Appreciate all your time. Talk to you soon. Bye.